Jumping into the number 5 spot of the top 5 budget wireless gaming mice of 2025, this is the Corsair M55 Wireless, coming in at a price tag of $49.99. If you guys want to check out any of the 5 gaming mice in this video, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. But let's talk about the M55. This uses Corsair's optical sensor with Slipstream Wireless version 1.5, which allows for an ultra-low latency wireless connection, and during testing, it has been flawless. Now, the build quality here is built like a tank. However, this is not a mouse for everyone, but if you're the right person, you're gonna love this. Now, the reason for that is its shape. It's a skinnier and flatter shape without a very big palm bump. However, this makes for an excellent shape for fingertip grip styles, but a downright unusable one with a palm grip and okay with claw grip. So if you're a fingertip gripper, ooh, I've got the mouse for you. If you claw grip, your hand has to be pretty far up on the mouse, which then makes the rear side button unusable. Some of you might not mind this, but I think there's better claw gripping mice out there, but fingertip grip, yeah. If fingertip grip is your preferred grip style, then this is a really comfortable and very controllable mouse because of the left side slightly going inward, and then the overall skinny width makes for a lighter fingertip grip to maintain that precision. I'm not personally a fingertip gripper. That's the whole big thing. I palm grip. That's like the farthest from my grip style. However, I was fingertip gripping while testing this mouse, and I actually really enjoyed fingertip gripping while gaming with this, when usually it makes me want to heave. So, you know, that's something. As for weight, this is wireless, but it uses a physical battery, so you have to put a AA or AAA in it. Now, with a stock AA battery, this comes in at a weight of 84.1 grams. However, if you swap it out for a lithium battery, which is significantly lighter, and that's a lithium AA battery, this brings the weight down to 75.9 grams. Now, if you still want it lighter, you can get a AAA lithium battery and then an adapter from AA to AAA, and that brings the weight down to 72.7 grams, which for the price and everything it gets, it's a very good value. This also significantly affects its flickability and its overall balance. I prefer it this way. Now, the skates here are unbelievably smooth. The glide is fantastic here, which I did not expect. Regardless of direction, there was complete evenness and a great sense of control due to the larger skates on the top and bottom. This really impressed me here. Now, the scroll wheel here is pretty average. It's got tactile bumps. It's not amazing, it's not bad. It's pretty much just there in the middle, which is fine. That's fine. The switches here, though, are super crisp. They're not crazy tactile or heavy. They're pretty much right there in the middle, but they are super crisp, like very much on the high end, very trebly, like, I don't know, it sounds good to me. I do like it. There is a little bit of pre-travel, but they overall feel good. Overall, if you're a fingertip gripper, this is an excellent wireless gaming mouse with an awesome glide. If you're a palm gripper though, skip this mouse. With that, let's move on to the number 4 spot, which is the Razer Viper V3 Hyperspeed. Coming at a price tag of $69.99, nice. The sensor here is using Razer's 30K optical sensor. This sits at 1000 Hertz polling rate, or you can get a separate dongle that you have to buy separately that brings it up to an 8000 Hertz polling rate, which is very cool. The build here is understated, but very attractive with a great fit and finish. As for the shape, palm gripping this feels great. A relaxed claw grip is also solid. The mouse is on the bigger side, like lengthwise, but the palm button isn't too tall and there's enough height for me to rest my fingers comfortably on the sides of the mouse when I'm doing my palm grip. You guys know I'm a palm gripper. That being said, this wasn't my favorite for a fingertip grip unless you had very large hands. Otherwise, you'd have to really just too wide your hands. But if you have big hands, go for it. It's probably more comfortable than most mice you've used. For the weight, this again uses a physical battery. Not all of the mice on the list do use a battery, but this one does. With a normal AA battery, this comes in at 83 grams, but if you go to a AAA lithium with an adapter, this gets it down to 70 grams, and you're probably looking at like 74, 75 with a normal AA lithium battery. I'd at least recommend going with a AA lithium battery because it does change this significantly. Skates are 100% PTFE with 2 small skates on the top, 1 around the sensor, and then 1 large skate on the bottom. This glides across your mouse pad very well, but if you put uneven pressure or do fast whips where you kind of tilt the mouse up or down, it pulls and it drags on the actual side of the actual shell of the mouse, if that makes sense. So that's really the only con. That is an issue with this mouse. It just depends how much that happens. When I game with this, I don't actually notice that happening a lot because I don't have like uneven tilting, but If you do, it could be a problem. The switches are Razer's Gen 2 mechanical switches, and they are implemented very well here. There is very minimal travel, very little wobble side to side, and they are really, really crisp. Overall, a very good implementation of this switch. It feels great. Overall, this mouse is a great shape with solid specs, but with that, let's move on to the number 3 spot. And this is the glorious Model O and D2 Wireless, coming in at a price tag of $69.99. For the same price as the Razer, I think this is just a little bit better, and this is what I prefer. The sensor here is the BAMF 2.0 sensor, hitting a 1000 Hz polling rate, and while you don't get the 8000 Hz polling rate, I still think this is the better mouse. The build quality here is great with no creaks and rattles at all. It feels very solid. The cutout design is also much more attractive than its last generation, and the shape here is fantastic. Now, I'm running the Model D, but you can also run the Model O. The Model O is symmetrical, and the Model D is the right-handed mouse. So depending on grip styles, you're either want to do the Model D if you're a right-handed palm gripper, or the Model O if you're going to be a fingertip or claw gripper. So it's really nice that you can get either the Model O and the Model D. Palm gripping, the Model D is super comfortable, and mix that with the lightweight for the size, and this thing is super flickable, but also very controlled. More so than the Viper 3, as this is a pretty big difference in terms of weight difference. So what is that weight? Well, basically for a similar size, the Model D is even slightly bigger because it's taller. The weight here comes in at 66 grams. That's really impressive. Again, same price. For the size and the fact that it's wireless, that's really good. Now, additionally to that, this uses a USB Type-C for charging, so it's got an internal battery rather than a AA. Now, in some cases, it's actually really nice to have a AA or AAA because the battery lasts way longer, but I think in most cases, people prefer an internal battery that's charged with USB Type-C, so that is kind of an upgrade. Now let's talk about the skates, because there is a trick with this. This comes with additional skates you can put on the top and the bottom. Out of the box, this does have drag, and I initially really did not like it because of the drag. It felt very not great with the drag, but adding the additional top skate to the top, just the top, completely fixes that. If you add that extra skate to the bottom, it ruins the mouse. Leave it off, but just add that top skate, it all but completely eliminates any sort of pulling or dragging, and it feels excellent. It also adds a little bit more resistance, and with the weight and then the size of this mouse, I think that is matched perfectly with that additional skate. So make sure to do that with that more surface area. The scroll wheel here is just about average. I wish it was a little bit more tactile, but yeah, whatever. For the switches, they feel nice and clicky. Not quite as crisp as the Viper switches, but that's pretty normal. Razer typically does better than the competition, at least with the crispiness of the clicks. However, there is even less side-to-side movement from the left and right clicks than the Razer mouse, but travel and pre-travel is just about the same here. Overall, a great mouse regardless of grip style, because you can choose the Model D or the Model O. Right-handed palm grippers get the Model D, and fingertip and claw grippers get the Model O. But with that, let's move on to the number 2 spot, which is the Dareu A950 Pro, coming in at a price tag of $59.99. Wow, did this mouse catch me by surprise and really impress me. This uses the 3395 sensor with a standard 4000 Hz polling rate, and well, the dongle included obviously, but that's cool. That's a lot of value at this price point. The build quality here is much better than I expected it to be. No creaks or rattles, and honestly, it feels almost as high quality as pretty much all of the other top brands like Razer. Just like the buttons aren't as custom as like Razer, but the overall build is as good. It's very solid. The shape is great. It's a simple shape, but it's a fantastic Goldilocks size and shape for claw, fingertip, and even palm grippers. And you guys know, I'm a palm gripper. For palm gripping, this was super comfortable, and honestly, very surprising to me how good this mouse was. This thing is so well balanced, and it's so freaking light at 55 grams. This is not a tiny mouse by any means, and that's a great weight. Now, obviously the 55 gram weight, this does not have like a AA, AAA. This has an internal battery that you charge via USB Type-C, which is great. And for the glide, this uses 4 medium small skates on each corner to glide on. Then there's an additional skate around the sensor. Typically, this isn't my favorite setup, as this typically causes drag in my experience. But here, while there is drag, it's very slight, way better than I expected. Quite impressive, and I really fully expected this to suck, and it's not. I would say the glide overall is like an 8.5 with 10 being perfect. So it's really good. There's just a bit of drag. Scroll wheel here is actually pretty decent. It's more tactile than I expected, and more tactile than the glorious mouse. It also has really nice, sharp, grippy pattern on the wheel itself. For the switches, this is using Kale Black GM 8.0 switches that are noticeably more crispy than the glorious switches. Overall, this is an amazing value to get a great shape, standard 4000 Hz polling rate, and an internal battery. But with that, let's move on to the number 1 best budget wireless gaming mouse of 2025. This is the Fantech Aria XD7 V2. Coming in at a price tag around $62.30 for the 1000 Hz polling rate version. That includes shipping. This was just released and they're still kind of rolling it out, so the price isn't 100% locked in, so check the links below for current pricing. Now, the sensor they're using here is the 3395 sensor. You can either get this with the 1000 Hz polling rate or an 8000 Hz polling rate. It's the same link below, it's just a different option you can choose when getting it. Now, the build here is even more solid than the V1 generation, as this has increased rigidity due to not having that removable backplate, which I think is an overall good choice. The shape has slightly changed to bring out the bottom, flare it out a little bit, which makes it much more comfortable to grip with all grip styles. Like I've said, this is one of my favorite mouse shapes of all time. I am immediately at home with this mouse, and they didn't change what was in the Aria XD7 V1. This is just an evolution of what was already an excellent mouse. By flaring at that bottom, they made it more comfortable. This allows for excellent fast lift-offs, a super fast but controlled whippy playstyle. I absolutely love this mouse, and really it competes with the highest end mice like the G Pro X Superlight 2, the Death Adder V3, and while it is a different shape, it's on that level in terms of quality, and everything that you get, it's that good. This is also the lightest mouse on the list, coming in at 53 grams. That makes it extremely nice for those liftoffs. Now, you can also use this with the dongle or Bluetooth. This has an internal battery that charges via USB Type-C, and the skates here are smooth. There is a bit of drag when going up and down, but it's very, very little. It's overall a very smooth gaming experience. Really, they didn't get anything wrong here. Now, the scroll wheel, it's one of the best I've ever used on any mouse. This is different from the V1 variant, so this is something they significantly improved. It is extremely accurate, it's very, very tactile, and it has clear bumps in between that are the perfect distance apart. The switches here are the Hano transparent blue shell pink dot switches, which are very, very clicky and feel great. Overall, due to the fantastic build, the amazing shape, the ability to get an 8000 Hz polling rate, great switches and left and right clicks, and a phenomenal scroll wheel, this is the best budget wireless gaming mouse on the list. But again, if you want to check out any of the 5 gaming mice in this video, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. But if you do prefer a wired gaming mouse, or you want it to be in a little bit more budget, maybe this was a little bit too expensive for you, check out this video right here. This is just the best budget version, so most of them are wired on that list, and they're in an even lower price category, so if this was too expensive for you, that's the video right there. This goes right there, and I'll see you guys in the next video.